Jojo All-Star Battle R will feature a roster of 50 playable characters. Most of them are returning from the original All-Star Battle, everyone in fact, including DLC, with the exception of Bao, who doesn't seem to be present in the screen. Which leaves us with 10 final characters to add to this roster. Now, since I haven't watched and read all of Jojo just yet, I don't think I'm in a good place to predict the rest of the roster myself. And that's why I made this survey and send it over to you guys. So this video is a prediction where I'll give my input on the characters, but it's mostly being controlled by the answers you guys filled out in the survey. And we got over 380 people filling out answers, so thank you so much. If you missed the survey, make sure to subscribe. I posted it on the community tab, so if you don't want to miss the next time I do something like this, scroll down, click the subscribe button. It's free and it helps me out a lot. A lot of interesting takes here. Over 100 characters were predicted, but we're only gonna take a look at the top 8. You may notice that in the survey you could only predict up to 8 characters, and that's because out of the 10 characters, 2 have already been leaked. Those being Trish and Prosciutto. And it may not seem like it, but these 2 characters already tell us a lot, or at least a very important piece of information regarding the rest of the roster, which is, not every new character has to necessarily have been a part of Jojo's Eyes of Heaven. The arena fighter that uses the same engine as All-Star Battle has actually taken a bunch of content and reused a lot of assets from All-Star Battle. And it seems that for All-Star Battle R, they're actually doing the opposite. They're actually taking a lot of stages and maybe some other pieces of content from Eyes of Heaven. It's like these 2 games that are now just feeding each other. But when it comes to new characters, being in Eyes of Heaven is not actually a requirement, and I think that's a really good thing. That said, if a character is playable in Eyes of Heaven, like Trish for example, it might be worth looking at their moveset, because a lot of these moves are the same if we jump between both games. It's hard to make a one-to-one comparison because they are such different genres, but it could give you an idea on how they will play. Now let's start with Trish. She's in Eyes of Heaven and she can make stuff bounce. She's got a parry that blows the enemy way back, and the rest of her moveset is pretty straightforward. She's a stand character, so in All-Star Battle R she will probably also have a stand rush and be able to do stand castle combos, all the stuff that stand characters can do. But she also has this unique ability to make the ground bouncy, and it can launch opponents whenever they step on it, so she also has a little bit of setup to her character. Next we have Prosciutto, which like I said is not a part of the Eyes of Heaven roster, but his stand has the power to age people around him. If the stand grabs the opponent, it can age that enemy directly, but it can also age everyone in a radius, which can be a dangerous ability because it affects both enemies and allies as well. In general, Prosciutto himself can be invulnerable to this effect if he chooses to do so, so I wonder, now that we have assists as a part of the core systems, would Prosciutto be able to affect his own assist when going for some risky options, like a big attack that will definitely age the opponent, but could also disable your assist for a period of time? It might be an interesting gimmick. And now that we're done with Trish and Prosciutto, let's look at the survey results. And at the number 8, the most voted character was Risotto Nero, which is a great prediction. I mean, if Prosciutto is making it, I'd say there's a very good chance that the leader Risotto will make it as well. Besides, he's got a really cool power, manipulating metal, so it makes perfect sense, which is why it is with great pain that I must say no. I wish this wasn't the number 8 character, because I have to veto this. I was gonna veto whatever character was gonna land at number 8, and it's because even though it's not confirmed, I think the Japanese website has some screenshots that strongly hint at a new character. Take a look at this screenshot. Yeah, none of these characters are new, but something's happening with Pucci. Looking at this screenshot of All-Star Battle R and putting it side by side with All-Star Battle, you can see a few differences. First of all, it doesn't have that special meter anymore, so a major character gimmick is gone. Now this could just be a rework of the character, so not exactly a new character per se, but here's why I think this is more than a rework. If you look at the portrait, that's also changed from All-Star Battle to All-Star Battle R. The new portrait is actually exactly the same as Eyes of Heaven, which means this is not the same Pucci we had before. This is Whitesnake Pucci. Whether that means he's a brand new character or just reworked to stay in his base form, we don't know. But if that's a rework, we're probably getting a new Pucci as one of the 10 characters, and that's why I have to veto one of your votes. But that's the last one, I promise. The remaining 7 characters are all your picks. At number 7, we have Stroheim, the Nazi cyborg. This is a character that is in Eyes of Heaven. He can summon a couple of minions, and these work almost like a timed buff where his abilities get stronger. For instance, if shooting projectiles, you got Stroheim's projectiles and you've got the minions as well. And with a bunch of hidden weapons throughout his cyborg body, I'm sure this is a very easy character to make a fun moveset out of. At number 6, we have Joshu Higashikata, another character that is actually playable in Eyes of Heaven. Now, Joshu Globku is still a manga only character, so I don't want to get into too many specifics. I'm sure many of you are anime only when it comes to Jojo, so looking only at what happens in Eyes of Heaven, he's a stand character, so he'll probably be one in All-Star Battle R. He can summon nuts and bolts and put them on people, and he also has a taunt in Eyes of Heaven that forces the opponents to target him, though that taunt probably doesn't make as much sense in a fighting game like All-Star Battle R. We'll see if they bring the character over and how much they will keep, because I've also heard that what this character does in game isn't that great of a representation of what they do in the manga. And number 5, Speedwagon from part 1. He's another character that summons lackeys as a gimmick, but it's different enough from Stroheim that I could see both characters making it in the end. Stroheim's minions almost work like a buff to his own attacks, while Speedwagons have a mind of their own and attack independent of Speedwagon. He can order them around, but it's not like they're syncing attacks with the main character. So there's enough of a difference between these two characters, Stroheim and Speedwagon, even if they both have a lackey or a minion gimmick. And number 4, we've got Foo Fighters. Now, this character is not available in Eyes of Heaven, and having not watched part 6 yet, I have no idea how she would play. But I read the wiki and this character is kind of wild. She needs to stay hydrated, otherwise she will completely break down. So maybe an extra resource needs to be managed. I don't know. Honestly, I don't want to read much more. I've spoiled myself enough with this character. That's insane! And number 3, another character that's not in Eyes of Heaven, it's Toru. Toru is currently a manga only character, and I think if he makes it in, it makes a lot of sense, because we'd finally get our first part 8 villain. Some of you have said in previous videos that it's actually been confirmed already. I tried looking up a source that confirmed this and I really couldn't find anything, so I'm not sure where this comes from. That said, once again, for the sake of spoilers, I'm not reading a single page of what he does. Here's what he looks like. He has a stand, and that's all I know. Done. Next. Number 2, Weather Report. And funny enough, he is at number 2 with only 1 more votes than Toru. This was super close. Weather Report is playable in Eyes of Heaven, and he's quite the unique character. Eyes of Heaven is typically a 2v2 game, and this is a support character, meaning he shines the most standing behind his teammates and just wreaking havoc. He has a lot of abilities that place traps or activate after a small delay. I can definitely see him being a setup type of character. He also has these clouds that he can summon after a while, like it takes a while for those clouds to come up, and they act as a shield and stagger whoever touches them. So he could also maybe set this up, summon the clouds after a knockdown or something. Very unique and interesting character for sure. And finally, at the number 1, and it wasn't even close, Diego Brando. Now, I say it wasn't even close, but the voting on this was weird. Some people specified which Diego they wanted. They said Diego Scary Monsters, Diego Dinosaur, because Eyes of Heaven has 2 versions. So I just assumed whoever wrote simply Diego meant the Scary Monsters version. The other version still got a decent number of votes. It was the 16th most voted character, but if you only typed Diego, I assume this is the version you were looking for. Once again, Diego is a manga only character right now, so instead of diving into his abilities and looking at the wiki, let's just look at how he plays in Eyes of Heaven. First of all, he's a mounted character, so that would be his archetype. He's got a lot of forward moving attacks like big jumping lariats. He seems to be able to jump into range whenever he wants, and he can also just throw dinosaurs. Yep, that's a projectile. He can also turn into a dinosaur himself. He can do so much in this game. I wonder how much they will bring over to All-Star Battle R. But if they do bring everything, he's gonna be a mounted character that has an install, and that would be pretty unique for sure. And that's the community's roster prediction. Trish, Prosciutto, New Pucci, Stroheim, Jojo, Speedwagon, Foo Fighters, Toru, Weather Report, and Diego Brando. Looks like a solid list to me. There's only one thing missing, which is part 3 representation. There's at least one character from every part except from part 3, so I don't think this will be 100% correct. And the most voted part 3 character in the survey was... I can't believe it. The most voted part 3 character was Pet Shop. Good job. Rest in peace to all the characters that almost made it to the top: Risotto, Jobin, Yukako, Pet Shop, and Leone Abacchio. I mean, there were more than 100 characters total, but these got pretty close. Now, to make this video, I had to play a lot of Eyes of Heaven, something I had never done before, and it was so painful. I had no idea I was gonna dislike that game so much, so I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the channel and leave me a like just to ease my suffering. Did your most wanted character make it to the list? Let me know who it was in the comments. And as always, thank you very much for watching. My name's Globku, and I'll see you next time. Bye!